Hello and welcome to my hobby project called Marble. It's a general purpose source-to-source plain text transpiler tool and programming language. Or in simpler terms, it's a glorified find and replace for text strings. You basically define a pattern, which is going to resolve to a regex internally, and it's going to try to match a pattern in some kind of input text, for example, like this. And I'm assuming here that it's the C language syntax, but it can be literally any files like CSVs or whatever you might want to use. And then for this pattern, we define a target, which is defining how to use the pattern match tags here, the information from the match, to then generate an output string. So for example, you can grab variables out of here. So in this example here, you just define a pattern, or you can also say that it's a component, which won't have a target, because Marble is component based and you build up patterns from smaller components. And then we say, a simple example here is we want to look for a symbol literal, so it'll try to find this kind of symbol string in the input. So for example, that would be this place right here. But before that, we want to capture what kind of scope it is. So this is a variable tag, which means that it's not going to look for the word scope. Rather, it's going to look for a symbol string of any kind, of letters, digits, and even an underscore until the next space. So here would match public or static or whatever. And then I give it the label called scope so that I can reference it inside of the target. And so you can do this with many tags. And then you end the pattern and you can use these values in here. And so here you can have just plain text being written out to the output file, literally. You can put emojis and whatever in here. It's UTF-8, so go wild. But then a special set of characters is whenever you use square brackets, that informs Marble that it should take some kind of action. Currently there is no escape for it, but there will be in the future. Marble currently is a very primitive language and tool. But you can do stuff like conditionals. So have an if function, which then has a condition, and it will try to figure out if this is truthy or falsy based on JavaScript's ideas of truthy and falsy, because I've currently implemented Marble in JavaScript, but you can implement it in whatever language you want. And here it's using the operator greater than to get this value, to resolve it from here by label, and then checks if that is bigger than this value. And here it's a literal one, but you can also access variables by index in the pattern. So I could say that I want to grab the 0th variable from the pattern. But here I just want the literal one. And so if this condition is met, it will do this string, and you can have nested ifs in here further, and you can also have loops and stuff. And a loop just currently takes one argument, and it will resolve whatever is in there that many times. So let's see what this actually does. So here I've opened up a PowerShell terminal in VS Code and navigated to the repo, and I just have a custom script here that I can run just for convenience sake, because I have test files. But you can see what it does. It launches Node with the Marble, with a source.marble file and input and output txts, and it says that it should be verbose, which is why it's printing a bunch of stuff here. And if we see now from this input, it has matched just one line, just this one, public index equals 2, and I was able to extract information out of there and put it into a string wherever I want them to be, and even perform operations on it, because if we set this to 2, because we know that this int is going to be equal to 2, 2 is not greater than 2, so therefore this if block should not be output. But just for information's sake, just to show you it's still matched, we can run this again, and we can see there they are, but the if never got executed. Now, mind these spaces here. I still have not figured out how I want to handle that, because languages like Python and whatever, they have very important indentation things. And so I'm just trying to figure out what is the best way to handle all that. But just to give you more of a idea of what Marble will be in the future, it is capable of doing these operations. There are other tags like components and new line and indent for Python reasons. There are shortcuts, so you don't need to write sim, you can just write the string. A bunch of different string literals are handled. Custom highlighting here is currently just by me, and I'm not very good at it, so even though will literally print out var, it's not a function call, it's still highlighted here, so that's my mistake, but the language works just fine. Yeah, ifs and loops are currently supported, but something like def is not, so you would be able to define your own variables in here and then manipulate them with these operators. So stay tuned for updates. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found this interesting.